me, everyday heroism is not being selfish and putting others before yourself. There are 7.7 billion people in the world. They're all born in different circumstances and lifestyles that's out of their control. It's important not to be selfish, especially if you have everything you need to survive and live a healthy lifestyle. Not maybe an amazing lifestyle, but you have a roof over your head and you have food. Some examples of everyday heroism could be donating or volunteering weekly to help those who might be in rough circumstances or born into a lifestyle they can't help. Smiling at someone when you're walking by. Their day could have been, and a simple smile could really help them out. Asking a classmate or acquaintance if they're okay if you notice that they seem off compared to normal. Just saying, hey, I noticed that you've been kind of quiet in class. Is everything going all right? They might not want to explain, but just knowing that someone is there for them can really make a difference in their life. Helping out a friend who may be going through a rough time. So you might have a close friend who you notice isn't turning in their assignments, isn't going to work, isn't motivated anymore. Just simply being like, hey, let's go out and grab a coffee and get some work done. I know it's a really stressful time, or asking if they need a ride to work. Anything that can really just show that you're there for them can just be a simple act. All of those acts of heroism come from just stepping back for a second and looking at how you can help others instead of just only focusing on yourself. My road to everyday heroism began in 9th grade when I began volunteering weekly at a nonprofit near my house. Now, for my school, we had to have 200 hours of volunteer service to graduate, so originally that's why I began volunteering. But over the years volunteering at the nonprofit, I observed so many acts of everyday heroism that inspired me to do some heroic acts myself. At first, I noticed heroism by other regular volunteers. Many of them had a family and jobs, but instead of working extra hours or spending time with their family, they were spending hours a week at this nonprofit for no pay, just for the benefit of helping others. And that really showed me that they were being selfless. They're putting others in front of themselves. They were not thinking about what's going to make them happy, going out to the movies or going out shopping. Instead, they were spending that time helping others because they had a roof over their head. They had food, so they didn't need to necessarily work, but instead they spent that time giving back, even though many of them lived very modest lifestyles. They didn't get paid much at all. They live in a really small, maybe 2-bedroom house. They spent that time volunteering instead of working. Then as I began volunteering more in the community with the nonprofit, I observed everyday acts of heroism, even by those who had almost nothing. So people who had to leave their house because of fire or domestic abuse and may only have a bag of clothing. They were doing daily acts of heroism. One instance that stood out to me and will stick with me forever is when I went to a local soup kitchen and a mom walked up with her daughter, whom I'm assuming just got out of school for the day. The daughter had on warm clothes, a jacket, hat, gloves, shoes, and she had a pretty nice backpack. It looked just like any other school children. You wouldn't even know that she was homeless. As the mother came up, I noticed that she was only wearing a long sleeve shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes that had holes in them. So it was January at the time. So it was pretty cold out, and she was wearing almost nothing when her daughter was completely bundled up. This mother was selfless, and even though she was in a rough circumstances, this particular soup kitchen helped people leaving domestic abuse. So she was having a really hard time in her life. She was selfless and put her daughter in front of herself. Instead of maybe splitting the money and making sure that she had a jacket and she had nice shoes, she made sure that her daughter blended in with the other school children, that she was living a normal life, even if she technically wasn't. And this instance really opened my eyes to how selfless people can be, and encouraged me to also be a little bit less selfish and begin to do everyday acts of heroism. The heroic action I took this week was giving a bag of supplies to someone I see being an everyday hero. There's a man I drive past in Clifton almost every day who stands out with a cardboard sign and his pet dog. As the colder months have begun to approach, I have noticed that he has purchased the dog a blanket or almost a sort of like dog jacket. While the man is only wearing jeans and a long sleeve shirt, or sometimes even a short sleeve shirt, and maybe a jacket that someone had dropped by. But this man is an everyday hero to me because even though he's in a rough circumstance and having to beg for money, instead of just using all the money for himself, he's being selfless and putting this money towards his pet dog before himself. He's making sure his pet dog is okay instead of using the money to buy himself drugs, I'm assuming. I wanted to give back to this man, so I went to the store and bought him dog food, treats, a couple dog toys, and assembled a bag in which I'm going to drop off to the man, just to kind of show that I am seeing his everyday acts of heroism. And here is the journey to my heroic action. Okay, so these are all the items that I got to put in the bag for the man and his dog. So the first thing that I got was just a bag of dog food. I also got just some regular like biscuit bone treats. I also found 2 other types of treats. They're the different types of like beef jerky. I focus a lot on food because I feel like that's like an essential thing a dog needs. I did get 2 different treats for, toys for the dogs, like a thing to clean its teeth, which I also thought was important because someone who's providing for a dog who doesn't have very much money probably only really buys food and doesn't really focus on some other small things like the cleanliness of his teeth. So I got this like chew and clean bone for it, and then I just got 1 little toy for it, and that is all. I put everything in this like reusable bag. I assume that this would be a good item that just to have afterwards. I was thinking about putting it in like a cardboard box, but then I realized that's just gonna have to be thrown away, where this bag you can use over and over again.